This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Bad thing about, I asked Watts one time when I was a young 22-year-old, I was such a mark when I was in the business. I still am to a large degree. But I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm a fan. I love what you guys did. I have great respect for men like yourself, what you've accomplished. So I don't mind that being a fan mark type guy. It doesn't bother me a bit. I don't look at it as a negative. But I asked Bill Watts one time the most powerful weapon in wrestling. I tell this in my shows, and people, I'll ask the audience, what do you guys think the most powerful weapon in wrestling is? And they'll say, a tombstone pile driver or a sharpshooter, or, whatever. I said, no, you're all wrong. It's called the eraser. And so they think that's some sort of like a Japanese nerve hold, the eraser. And it's on the other end of a pencil. And if the guy in charge wants you to move somewhere else, he can erase your name. You're recast, just like a casting agent. You're in a movie. You're doing fiction, and you're going to be killed in the first scene because of the eraser. And I think that they went there. They got you from WWE, thinking it would weaken WWE so badly that they accomplished what they wanted by signing you, without knowing what they were going to do with you and how much money you could have made them if there was a plan. So,
well, it haunts me. Always haunt me that I can remember talking to Vince and him saying to me, and for all I know, you might have even said the same thing back in those days, because I remember you were around and part of the office. But I remember Vince saying, he goes, WCW would never know what to do with Bret Hart.
Oh, I think we did say that.
And I remember that when I signed. It's like I knew they didn't know what to do with me, that I had no real. I wasn't that thrilled about going there. I didn't really want to go there. I thought I was forced to go there, so I went the only place I could go. But I always knew that it was going to be tough when I got there, and probably would never be the same. And I just never knew that they were as stupid as they were. Especially when I look at the business today, I think there was so much potential with the two companies, and the wrestlers themselves had so much leverage. Like today, there's no leverage anymore. Wrestlers have very little position as far as leverage is trying to negotiate a contract or something like that. You're much more expendable. It's their way or no way now. And back in those days, it was, if someone like a Bret Hart was going to leave and go to WCW, it could have a huge effect on things. And same with somebody from WCW leaving to go to WWF. It was, hey, did you hear so he's in WWF now? It got a lot of fresh blood kind of cooking in both companies, and it was good for the business. At least it was good for the wrestlers. And Eric Bischoff dropping that ball, he dropped the futures for so many wrestlers that changed everything in a negative way.
Those kids you were talking to earlier, those Canadian kids, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, he's Kevin Steen. I like him. Bobby Roode, I think's a really good hand. There's a kid in Ring of Honor, Mike Elgin, not a bad hand, from Ontario. I've talked to all those guys at different times, and you're like their role model. You're their guy. And I said, well, that's probably one of the reasons you're successful, is that you set your goals high and you want to be like Bret. And I said, he was a wrestler. He was a showman, because he wore the pink and the black and the music and the glasses and all this. He had some sizzle, no doubt. But what brought him to the dance was the music that he made. He was a wrestler. And I think that's the thing that I've always respected about you, is the fact that you always carried yourself as a wrestler. My only complaint about you ever was that sometimes you were tardy when I was like sitting at your dad's table and waiting on you to come shoot a vignette, and he got bored and wanted to take me to the dungeon. And I wish you would have gotten there a little earlier, because he put my arm. He said, you gotta. You start seeing spots. Just give me the office. And he said, I'm going to deprive your brain of the oxygen it needs to survive. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I? Bret, where are you? Where are I? There wasn't days of the cell. Bret, where are you? I want to text you. Help, SOS. So Stu got me in this some crazy ass hole. We're both vertical, and so I started. He squeezed a little bit, and I started. Well, yeah, I get it. And I get in the office right away, and luckily he showed mercy, because he let go, and I put him over like $1 million. I said, I've never felt anything like that, because I knew I was gonna pass out. I was going to urinate myself, and when wearing khakis, that wasn't a day to urinate yourself. He was then he started telling about the Wayne Coleman stories, and of course when I got Superstar Billy Graham on the show, I did my Stu impersonation, which everybody does, and I said that Wayne Coleman has big arms, and I humbled him and got him on his back, and then Billy, I didn't know what Billy was going to do. He's going to sell it or not. So Billy started laughing, and then he started doing Stu. He started doing Stu, doing him, and boy, it was just funnier than hell. It was just, your dad was such a character and such a neat man, and he accepted me in your mom and dad's house because I was one of Leroy McGurk's guys, and he had great respect for Leroy because Leroy was a shooter, and he had the one eye, and was an NCAA champion, but he had these Leroy stories. So he knew if Leroy broke me in, I was okay. It almost like was being in the mafia, where you were in somebody else's family in Jersey, so you went to the mafia in Calgary, but you're okay.
Yeah, that's how the business was back then, and that was kind of nice about the business. You could go from one territory to another and sort of get accepted based on conversation between two promoters about your ability.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think? I read online. I haven't done any interviews for it. I don't know if there's anything being done. Did you do anything for the Owens DVD that WWE is going to produce?
No, I think that's a work in progress still. I think they're working on getting some of the family members this week, I think in the next few days.
Oh, cool. To
be part of that. I know Owen's widow's not part of it and not happy with it, but I think that I think it's important to remember what Owen accomplished in wrestling, and I disagree with her on her position about Owen.
I think that there's a lot of fans loved him, like many of us in a business loved him, and a lot of them want to show their kids. A lot of the younger wrestlers want to see his work, because he was absolutely, you were so good that you stole a little bit of his thunder, simply because you were really good. I mean, you were one of the best ever, and he was too. That's what people don't get. In different companies or at different times, or he was a little bit younger, or he came 10 years after you or whatever, I think he'd be perceived entirely differently. He was one of the best in-ring performers I ever saw. And I say that not because I'm trying to kiss your ass, but because of the fact that I never saw him have a bad match. He could do anything he wanted to do, and he could make anybody he was in a ring with better than they were.
There's only a handful of guys that I can say it about, and the two that come to mind have always been Mr. Perfect and Owen. Were the only two guys that, not the only two guys, but two guys that come to mind the most prominently anyway. You didn't have to talk to them.
Yeah.
They could be in a totally different side of the stadium in a different dressing room, and the referee could come over and just say, we need 25 minutes, or we need whatever it was. You didn't need to even communicate, and you could go out in the ring and you could have as good a match as you ever had, just figuring it out in there and just relaxing and just letting it flow and just working with each other, like almost like you're working in Stu's basement without fans there.
Right.
And Kurt Hennig was the same. He was so terrific to work with. Like, you could just we didn't need to talk or converse or anything. You could have thrown us in ice cold, and lots of times we did work ice cold, and we just went out there and had a 5-star match every time and come back, and it's like it's something that's natural, ingrained in their it's in their being, like the same as me. You grow up watching it and you do it all your life. You just have an instinct for it, and Owen was just I miss a lot of times when I see matches back from those days, like in '94 when I was wrestling Owen, it makes me feel bad that we didn't tape, or that nobody filmed or taped some of the matches that we had later in there. You know, they always filmed the WrestleMania 10. You see that and you hear a lot about that match. But that was the very first match we ever worked. We never worked ever before that. And
wow.
We had one match, ice cold, and that was Madison Square Garden. It was pretty darn good. And then
it was.
I know we went to England after WrestleMania 10, and Owen and me worked for about 2 weeks straight over there. And I just remember, like, a month later, we were wrestling all around. We had I think it was Wrestling Rampage tour, and then they kept Owen and I together, and we worked. But our matches got so much better by summer, July or August, me and Owen were having such great matches, like so much better than when I watch today. I go, you know, those were good matches, but those are the first ones we had before we even took it up a notch. And, and a little bit the same with Mr. Perfect. You know, they don't have a lot of the best matches that we had. You know, we had a few in the beginning, but, you know, there was so many matches that we had that were so, I just wish there'd been a camera there to film it and to capture it, and so that we could look back on it today, because they're both Perfect and Owen were two guys that I would love to wrestle. I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night in the ring with them. That's
amazing. That's amazing. It's a great memory, though. And you'll always have that in your heart and your soul, your brother. I think about him all the time. And you know, Owen and I used to do this thing. We'd meet each other in the hall and we'd lock up. We did all the time. We'd lock up. I mean, stiff, kind of good. And sometimes we'd not say a word. We'd lock up, and then he'd continue going his way, and I'd go my way. And people would look around, what the hell are those guys doing?
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.